William Whalen here for GetMoreSports.com, and we are looking at the ACC. This is one of the most interesting conferences in the country this year because you have the defending champion Blue Devils of Duke and Coach Mike Krzyzewski kind of going through somewhat of a rebuilding year, but simply in roster. This is a team that is bringing in another top recruiting class. They're the number one class in the country for the class of 2015, and they arrive on campus with some pretty high expectations. But the Blue Devils are certainly not considered the favorite here. When we talk about favorites, we're talking about North Carolina, we're talking about Virginia. North Carolina is my number one team in the country to start the year. I do think that they're going to have the National Coach of the Year in Roy Williams. This has been a long time coming for old Roy. The Tar Heels had a rough go of things for about the last 5 years. So much inconsistency, so much disappointment, and yet it finally feels like they're kind of back on the national spotlight, and they're doing it behind a core of veterans that are mixing in with some dynamic youth. But I think the thing for North Carolina is consistency. Can they win on the road in a defensive battle? We all know that they can score. We all know that they can get out into the open court when you got guys like Josh Jackson, and Player of the Year candidate Marcus Page. Those guys are really going to set the tone for the Tar Heels. But can they get down in a defensive battle and get stops on the road in Cameron? Can they go to Virginia and keep up with the Cavaliers defensively? That's going to be the big question for this group. And speaking of the Cavaliers, they're right at the heels. I mean, they're a top 5 national team to start the year, and they're of course led by Tony Bennett's pack line defense, and they're led by Player of the Year candidate Malcolm Brogdon. The Cavs can do so many things, and so much of it is run through Ledin Perantes with his leadership. He's a guy who brings consistency. You want to talk about that? A model for the Tar Heels maybe is looking at a guy like Ledin Perantes. He's not going to do the flashy things at all times. He's not going to put up gaudy numbers. But this is a guy who can absolutely lead a team. The question, of course, for the Cavs is can they make a run in March? But when we look at the conference season, these are the kind of 3 teams that I think most people are looking at. But don't forget about Miami down south there. They're a real dark horse here, and I don't think enough people are talking about them nationally.